As we always do, we have a few copies of this one to give away, which reminds me we need to put a community post out tonight, Glen, about those tiny Thor codes. All you got to do is let us know in the comments your favourite party game.
Hello everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the game Speed Crew. Now the publishers did contact us and ask if we'd have a look at their game, so thank you very much to them for sponsoring this video. It's a party game, very similar to games such as Overcooked, and we're going to delve into it and tell you exactly what it's all about.
As always, if you want to save yourself 10% on your eShop credit, you can get 5% off instantly and 5% back in cashback using code SwitchUp over at our website switchup.gg.
So what exactly is Speed Crew, and is it a hidden gem that we've missed? Well, let's find out.
As far as the narrative goes, it kind of reflects what's happened in history with motor racing. There's a rival family that you're competing against, and then that plays out over several decades.
Yep, so you play as an elite pit crew, and the story will then feed into the gameplay in terms of the tasks that you have to perform.
The story's carried along with small animated cutscenes that have a sepia tone to them, which is quite nice to reflect the era.
So moving into gameplay then, and it would be easiest to describe it as a party game where you have to work together in order to succeed, fix as many cars as possible, and obviously then move up the rankings board and move on to the next level.
In Speed Crew, you can play 1 to 4 player locally, and it also has 1 to 4 online where you're able to host your own games or join others. You obviously start out in the earliest era, which is 1977, I believe, and as a result, the cars reflect that. So their designs, the tracks that you'll be working in, and the game gradually drip feeds its mechanics.
So on any given course, you'll start by having the cars drive in. You'll need to use the diagnostics machine to see exactly what's wrong with them, and this will be shown by the orange highlighted areas on that particular car. For example, it might be that you need to change the wheels, or just fill up the petrol, or perhaps do some bodywork by hammering out some dents.
To avoid repetition, this gets more complex the further you go into the game and the more eras you progress through. Things like the hammer turn into the plunger, which is a single-use item, requiring you to be much more efficient with where you place your items and where you place yourself.
As well as the items themselves changing, the backdrops will change too, not just in terms of the aesthetics, so obviously you'll have your traditional dirt tracks or race tracks with items placed where you would expect, but then things become much more outlandish and you'll have moving platforms, lava pits and such to try and navigate in order to get the job done.
With the goal of hopefully finishing in the top 3, you're desperately trying to work together to get those high scores, and you really will have to coordinate your positions. For example, on this particular map, we're having to move the canister from the left side to the right side, trying to keep one of us on one of those sides at all times because the diagnostic machine is up in the top right hand corner, but the button to push for the car to leave is down in the left. Yeah, so your positioning is part of your strategy.
At other times there'll be particular environmental problems that will stop you from moving at all, and again your positioning needs to be spot on so that you don't both get stuck on one side of the screen not being able to do anything. I mentioned lava pits earlier. There's a level where a big lid will lift off a pot with lava underneath it, and if you are on the wrong side of the screen you can't pass this, therefore you can't use half of the equipment and you'll stand around like a bit of an idiot, to be honest, until it goes back on. So yeah, you just need to think about that, and obviously the cooperative aspect of this game, whilst it's not essential, you can play in single player, it is a huge part of the experience.
You've also got to be a little bit careful, because if you get hit by a car, you actually die for around 5 seconds, which, while it's not the end of the world, can drastically mess up a high score run.
Yeah, time is of the essence. As obvious as that sounds, you have to get the cars fixed as quickly as possible because there will be a timer counting down, and if you take too long there's a penalty, and as Mark said, you can get hit by those cars, and again it just costs you time in terms of one person not being able to move for a moment. It's all about getting things done as quickly and efficiently as you can.
Now, as for the movement, you do have a dash move very similar to Overcooked by pressing the Y button, which allows for a short straight line dash. Again, it's something you've got to be careful about, especially if you're on one of those levels with the hazards or there's a car coming, because once you dash, it's going in that direction, and yeah, trust me, you can die.
For sure.
So the championships are divided up very much like you would have a racing game, and in some ways it feels a bit more like that with the positions first, second and third. And as you're competing, it's almost like there are other crews doing the same thing in the background, because you'll see their scores and your score going up and down, especially if you have a particularly slow moment and you start to see your score drop down the leaderboard. It does add a nice bit of pressure to the proceedings.
Yeah, so it's basically your 1, 2, 3 star system, but having that competitive edge to it, and as Mark said, you can almost see it playing out in real time because it will show the other team's scores as you're going along.
As way of another incentive, you will also unlock different costumes if you manage to perform in the first or second position. These can be applied to your character before a run, and we did notice a couple that reminded us of some of our favourites, like Shovel Knight's helmet, wasn't it?
Yeah, a couple of nice little Easter eggs in there for sure.
So we're going to give you a bit of our personal experience so far as we've been playing it this morning, just to give you a general idea.
Yeah, no, I've really enjoyed this one actually. I do like these sort of games anyway. I've always had a soft spot for such games. I play a lot of them with my wife, as we've kind of mentioned on the channel before. And as we started playing this, it took a little while, a few levels, just to kind of almost synchronise, didn't it? You know, you have to get on board with the other person and kind of align your thoughts. And the more you talk, the more fun it becomes. You know, it really does. You can start to see your scores ramping up. And it's the sort of game where you'll play a level, you might just scrape through in third place. And I always think a sign of a good game is that you can move on to the next level, or you can choose to try for a better score, and you choose to try for a better score. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. The synchronization through the conversation is a key part of the gameplay for sure. And also, what I do really like is that it changes up some of the, for example, the wheels. I don't like the way that you have to go and fix those wheels every time, but then in the next level, suddenly there were fresh wheels on a conveyor belt that we could just go and grab. So I like that it mixes up some of those elements so that you don't always have to do those elements that, let's not say I don't like, but are more tricky.
Yeah, more time consuming.
And
not just that, it also throws you a little bit because you're expecting to do it that way.
Exactly.
And then it does change it up for a level, whereas you say it's just a case of grabbing them from somewhere or depositing the old one and just putting a new one on. And it just takes you a moment to acclimatise. And that's where the progression comes in terms of the game evolving, you know?
Yeah, I would say in every stage almost that we've done so far, there's been some change or shift, which is really nice, especially in this type of game. That then takes us onto the overall visual quality and the audio. And as its influences, it does look similar to something like Overcooked. It does run nice and smoothly.
Yep, nice and smooth. Has that kind of sepia tone that you mentioned, almost like a comic book style, you know, with the black dots, like something like Liechtenstein as well. But it also had quite a nice splattering of neon. It just has a few different styles as you move through the eras, you know?
Yeah, it does try and carry through that 80s vibe, especially in the early stages. And I'm sure, as you'll see on the screen, the aesthetic changes as you move through the eras. But you do know it's a SwitchUp video when you get Liechtenstein in Speed Crew.
Absolutely. In terms of the menus themselves, it has quite a high octane feel to it, which is very appropriate for the gameplay style. I would say that when you go into the actual levels, it doesn't hold that quite so well, and that's one area I think there could be an improvement, because you almost need to feel that pressure. And whilst it certainly comes through the gameplay, having that high octane music in the background, speeding up as time's running out, that sort of thing really does add to that, you know?
Absolutely agree, yeah. I think that's one little tweak that they could make, but the core gameplay still has that frenetic feeling. As for the cost, you are looking at £16.75 or your regional equivalent, which places it well within the ballpark of most of its competitors. Having said that, there is currently a discount which goes on till the 27th of August. All the details for that are on the screen right now. And there is a demo available, so do go and give it a go yourself and see what you think. As we said at the start, let us know your favourite party game in the comments so that you can win a copy of this. And a big thanks once again to the publishers for sponsoring this episode.
That's right, yeah, I enjoyed this one. As I said, I do like these sort of games. They're just so much fun to play with another person. If you've played it, or if you're planning on picking it up, please do let us know. Stick it all in the comment section below. It'd be nice to see your thoughts.
Lovely stuff. If you want to support the channel, you can buy your digital games and credit over at switchup.gg. All the info's on the screen. And if you're a physical collector, then use PlayAsia. We've got a little discount link there as well.
A quick thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.